Alrighty, hello and welcome. It's been a while. It's been quite a while. The last video I put out was either the monolith or it was the one build guide I've put out. Literally all patch. And part of the reason I did that was because I played that build for so long because it was so much fun and it was so much fun to do the new monolith. But here we are. We actually have a new build and we're bringing back Shadow Daggers. So a lot of people seem to have thought Shadow Daggers was dead this patch, and it's not getting played very much. And I understand why. It got nerfed. And when people see a build get nerfed, they think it must be bad now, right? It got nerfed. Well, that's not the case. Shadow Daggers is still really good. In fact, Shadow Daggers is still S tier. Shadow Daggers is still one of the best builds in the game. If you make an arena version of Shadow Daggers, you can do 800 plus waves, which very, very few builds can do right now. So it's still a really good build. It does have some downsides now, which we'll talk about. But what I've made here is actually a clear speed for monolith Shadow Dagger build. So it's, of course, very, very fast. If you like playing a high speed, high octane build, this build is for you. So let me just show you real quickly what it looks like. We're going to go through a quick mono and give you an idea of, let's do this one. Let's do Black Sun. We're in Empowered, of course. I've got all the blessings I want. All the Empower blessings I want. They're not all perfect rolls, but we don't need that. That's just crazy. But we're in a really good state here. It didn't take very long. Let's see. Frenzy and Haste on hits. Sure, let's do it. As you can see, I've already done some stuff here. I'm only at 100 corruption. So this isn't crazy hard. But let's see what the speed looks like on this build. Particularly in comparison to the last patch, which was like 15 to 45 seconds generally, usually the clear one. So the one thing we gotta do now is we have to kill enemies a little bit to find where we want to go. So that should slow us down, right? No, not really. Not really. The worst it's gonna do is like we'll take a wrong turn and then it'll show up and like, oh shit, I gotta go back. But that's about it. Otherwise, about the same as the other one. We're just gonna find. Oh, there it is. Hey, it's right next to us. Cool. This has been like 10 seconds. There's the enemy. All right, let's pop down our smoke bomb. Let's go ahead and smack him a couple of times. And he's dead, and we're done. And that's it. That's what, less than 30 seconds, I think? That's pretty typical. Yeah, it's still really good. Like, if you've been told that Shadow Daggers is dead, let this be a lesson to you. Don't always listen to the hype. Just because there is a nerf does not mean that a build is dead. By the way, this is a complete rebuild from the old one I had from last patch, because I deleted all of my characters and all of my stash. So this is missing the tier 7 Shadow Dagger effect chest piece that I had. It's all brand new gear that I farmed over the, well, relatively recent future. So here are the pros and the cons to the build. Pro, it's stupid fast. Like, oh my god, it's gonna fly through everything. It's also got great AoE. It uses decoy. That's a huge pro, because it means that you can just pop one down and run away from whatever's scary, and it can't hit you because it's too busy hitting your decoy. Smoke bomb also allows you to have really high AoE and really good clear, even when you're not in an area. Like, you just drop that down with a decoy in an area, you walk away, it all dies. Relatively good single target damage. Like you saw, I cleared out that mini boss pretty quickly. It doesn't annihilate bosses though. Like if you're looking for like a massive and just boss killer, this version of it doesn't do that, but we are prioritizing speed over damage. So I'm using double smoke weaver, which is not necessarily like the top way of building damage on Shadow Dagger, but it does make you very fast and give you lots of dodge, so it's pretty good. Let's see, any other pros? We'll throw into pros that there's multiple ways of building defense on this, and we'll talk about that later. And the way I built it here has got a con, so we'll talk about that as well. Let's see, any other pros to speak of? It's, well, in comparison to the last one, it's easier to gear for. So if you played it last patch, it was pretty challenging to get it up to like where it was really good, because you had to hit the thresholds. So like Shadow Dagger, typically you need to have 4 Shadow Daggers on an enemy to proc the actual Shadow Dagger damage. Last patch you could actually drop that down with Shadow Dagger effect all the way to 1, and now you can no longer do that. It stays at 4. So the good side of that is one progression like track you don't have to worry about. Shadow Dagger effect is now just like a smooth increase, like it's a smooth damage multiplier and nothing else. So even if you're not like there's like, you don't have to be at 150% Shadow Dagger effect to get like a really big boost anymore. So it feels better low level because it also got is twice as powerful as far as efficiency or effect damage effectiveness on your base damage. So like if you add base physical damage to your gear, you get twice the effect you would have got last patch. So early game, this plays a lot better than it did before, and it played well early game before. So that's a big plus. All right, let's get to cons. The first one, and to me the biggest one, it's just not as much fun. It's still fun. It's definitely fun. It's one of the more fun builds, I think, still, but I think we lost a lot when EHG decided to take away the thresholds and allow you to drop the a number of Shadow Daggers you needed to proc the effect. And it's not as much fun to find the gear to get the threshold, since like there was like this really like, oh, this is super pog, I actually got the threshold and now I've dropped how many I need on there. It's like an obvious benefit, like an obvious buff to my build. It just feels way better. We don't get that anymore. I'm pretty sad about that. So just bear in mind, because now you need the 4 to proc, and so you're not going to be like, you're never going to get to the point where you're just flying through content, which is a good thing. In some ways, like it was way too fast for sure. So there's some value in that, but just losing that effect where you can just drop it just doesn't feel nearly as good, nearly as fun to gear for it. Once you get strong though, it's still a really fun build to play. So don't get me wrong, it's still one of my favorite builds, but I think that's a con. A con for the way I built it here is it's not squishy, but it is rippy. Like I'm sitting here just standing in place at 70% dodge. And this is actually at 89 scale, but when I hit 100, it's like 69, 68. So I have a lot of dodge. When I'm shifting around, I'm up to 81%. If I just dropped in a decoy, I'm at 73. So I'm always sitting at a high level of dodge. Now, the problem with dodge, of course, is you can still get hit, and then dodge does nothing. And so there are some times where I get basically one shot, but it's like once every 1 or 2 hours, so it's not like a big deal. But if you don't like the prospect of potentially getting one shot every once in a while, I do have an alternative one that uses glancing blow instead of dodge as its main defensive mechanic. So that one will be a lot less rippy, even though it may not have as much total like EHP, like total tankiness. It'll also be a lot more smooth. So really pick which one you want. I have a planner for each one. They both work really well. Let's see, other negatives. It's hard to find negatives for this build. The way I've made it, it's not meant for arena. You can make, like I said, Shadow Daggers for arena. This one will probably do pretty decently in arena because Smoke Bomb is just absurd right now. So you'd still do well, but if you're looking for an arena version of Shadow Daggers, there are other ones out there that are more geared towards being an arena style build. It also, like, its rotation really isn't bad. What you do need to do though is you need to pretty much try to be running around all of the time. This is a very frenetic build because you want to keep up that high dodge as much as possible, and you don't want to stand in one place, particularly for dots, which is something I should talk about as a negative here. So you're running around all the time. You're just stopping to pop your skills as quickly as you can, stink strike into something, run away. You just don't want to be in one place for very long. So if you don't like kind of hectic, frenetic feeling builds, this one might not feel super good. And on that dot note, like if you get hit with a dot on this build that avoids dodge, like there's a little like snake, void snake thing that will put a leech effect on you, that hurts. Like it hurts a lot. Standing in poison will hurt a lot. So be careful around dots, particularly dots that you can't like just avoid on the ground. There's only a few of these in the game, fortunately, but where they are, they can be really painful. Oh my god, I always forget the name of this boss. The deer boss. The deer, what's a dude's name? The deer boss in Age of Winter has that circle he puts around him and he runs away. That's painful. Hirot, thank you, Quiet. So you have to really time against those fights because you just don't have a lot of room for error the way this is built, since it's built around dodge. Again, if you go the glancing blow route, you'll be better off because you'll have more EHP, like just general EHP. You won't be relying on dodge. But if you go the route I have, these are all things to bear in mind. Okay, that's a lot of pros and cons. Let's just move on from that. So the next thing we need to talk about is how difficult is to play the build. If you like frenetic, fast-paced builds, it's not particularly hard to play. If you don't like moving around all the time or worrying about moving around all the time, you like to stop a lot, you might find this one challenging. But the rotation is not hard. Drop smoke bomb to kill AoE, and just basically anytime you want to kill anything. Use decoy to prevent enemies from hitting you, and also give you a damage buff. Sync strike on single target or small packs, and then of course shift pretty much all the time. Flurry actually does nothing. I could literally do this. The other reason I don't is because then she starts doing this weird shit for whatever reason. She likes to do that if you accidentally press the button, then she stops in place. Whereas if I put flurry on my bar, I just get that and then I keep running. So if I accidentally click right click, flurry's better. But I don't actually use flurry for anything. I only use 4 buttons. Okay, so that's skills. As far as like for new player experience, is this like new player friendly? It's a lot more than last patch. I don't know if I'd want to start with my first build as this one, maybe, but because it's so frenetic, you might want to learn the enemies a little bit better before you play a Shadow Dagger build. But I don't think it's like it's not like last patch where because you needed all of the thresholds, you're just completely screwed as a new player because it's going to take you so long to get your Shadow Dagger effects. Shadow Dagger effect makes a pretty big difference in the build for sure, but it won't hold you back as much as it would. So I think you could play this as a new player and be relatively okay, but it wouldn't be the first build I'd recommend for sure. Okay, patch considerations. So what's the odds this is going to get nerfed or altered in some way next patch? I would say pretty high. Because they haven't really, even though they did a lot to change it this patch, they haven't nailed down the actual problems with the build that makes it so powerful in Arena, which is why it can still do 800 waves. It could do 1,000 last patch, does 800 this patch. You're like, wow, it's 200 waves difference. That's true, but 800 waves is still vastly more than almost all the builds can do. There's only like 2 builds that can do more than this, maybe 3. So it's still one of the most powerful builds in the game, and it's not close, because like if you do 500 builds, you consider probably OP as a build, so doing 800 is crazy. So I imagine there's probably going to be something done to smoke bomb and to taunt at some point. These are the 2 that are the biggest issue with the build right now. Taunt is an issue for every build right now. Like most of the builds that push the farthest do it because of taunt, because it's like a global taunt where it taunts like literally anything that's near you, no matter where the taunt device is. So that's probably going to be affected. And smoke bomb allows you to just drop this thing and run away and let enemies take damage. That's pretty crazy. That's a little ridiculous. You don't have to like actually fight anything. So be on the lookout for those 2 changing. Even if they do, because of what we're doing with this build, it'll probably be whatever they come up with. Will probably be still a really good build for mono. Shadow Dagger is probably always going to be a good build for mono as long as they don't completely gut smoke bomb and not give us anything to work with. But yeah, I do think that there's a decent chance that at least something on this build is going to change by next patch. So get it in while you can. And of course, maybe they don't, because that happens too, like EQ Werebear last patch where it didn't get touched at all. But I do want to keep you informed that I think there's a decent chance that it could get changed. Okay, let's get into the actual build. This is like 13 minutes. We haven't got to the build yet, so let's actually go to it. All right, the skills. We've got shift. Shift is obviously your primary mobility, but it's also going to give you a lot of dodge. We actually only have 3 out of 5 here. We could take more and get more dodge. We just don't need it. Remember, this is 90 dodge per point of dexterity. And we have 16 dexterity. This is actually a relatively low dexterity build. So this is 90 times 16 you're picking up for 1 second after you dodge. And you're also getting invulnerability while you're shifting. So this is a pretty important part of it. This is why we're constantly shifting, also just to get through the content really quickly. Speaking of getting through the content really quickly, so here's how you're going to start with building shifts. You're going to take 2 in Shadow Recuperation, and you're going to take 2 in Swift Recovery. Eventually you come back and you can take all 4 to get your mana back. This is like your only mana generator outside of just pure generation. And then you're gonna, as soon as you can, take 3 in Momentum, which gives you 50% increased move speed. And this is different than haste, so it stacks with haste for 1.5 seconds. And if you're running double Smoke Weavers, you have a 1.7 second cooldown, so you're at 50% move speed almost all the time if you're holding down the button. And then you're gonna take Lasting Presence and Dancing Shadows to give you the Shadow Cascade, which will help you put more Shadow Daggers on. We're also going to go up here and take Unseen Strike for melee damage along the path. This will be like probably the last way you go. 2 for Broad Sweep, just to get us to 2 for Hidden Blaze, which is another chance to... This gives you the Shadow Dagger proc if you go through an enemy, which you'll go through a lot of enemies because you're going to be running really fast through a mono. All right, next up we've got our good friend Decoy. One of the most OP skills in the game right now because of just how much you can trivialize a lot of the content by just tossing out a decoy and watching enemies run towards it as you laugh at them because they can't hit you. So here's how we've got it set up. I probably would recommend going this way first. It doesn't really matter too much. Getting the double decoy charge is probably your number 1 priority. So just put 4 in embedded spikes, which doesn't matter at all, but gives you the second decoy charge. From there, go take Lasting Presence to get you down to Into the Shadows. 200 dodge rating with active decoy. As you can see, that's pretty big. So I got 35, 43 dodge now. I put a decoy out and up to 4127. That's a lot of dodge right there, and it stays out as long as the decoy's out. And then we get critical multiplier per dodge chance. So again, if I'm just standing in one place, I put this out. I have 73% dodge chance, so I have 73% crit multi while it's out. That's a lot. From there, we'll go up and we'll take 3 in mana efficiency and 3 in sonic detonation for the frailty and armor shred stacks, and then we get 3 more armor shred stacks and more duration from Ear Shatter, and that will cover decoy. Now, Smoke Bomb, which is one of the main damage skills, as weird as that might sound, this is how you build it. 1 of 1 in Thick Smoke, 3 of 4 in Eroding Flames, and this is all just to get over to here. We'll start by taking 1 of 4 in Swirling Fog, which will open up Knives in the Dark. Knives in the Dark is doing all of the work here. Inflicts a Shadow Dagger whenever you apply a slow. So you apply a slow, you also apply a Shadow Dagger. You apply a slow from Thick Smoke once per second, and then you drop that down to like once per half second from Swirling Fog. So you're getting 2 Shadow Daggers per second from just that alone, not including if you're shifting into enemies or if you're sync striking, just there alone. And then the rest of it's going to be about increasing the duration, increasing the radius, the area, and the growth speed. So notice I did not take Silver Shroud. If you want to be a little bit tankier, you absolutely can put some points into that. I've decided to just go full speed ahead, you know, just be dumb about it, go as fast as I can, do as much damage as I can. And it's been perfectly fine. I haven't felt like I needed Silver Shroud here. But if you want that extra layer, you absolutely can. You just probably take out of Impending Gloom, maybe 2. And that's one way to do it. Or take 2 out of duration, either way. All right, next up is Shadow Cascade. This will apply both when we are doing Shift, as well as when we are doing Sync Strike. It has a multi-role feature. Well, its primary role is to apply Shadow Daggers up here. So we're going to take 2 in Armor Shred Chance, 1 in Crushing Darkness, 4 in Dagger Dance to allow us to get into Porcupine's Wrath and then get the actual Shadow Dagger effect. Also took 2 in Duration and Range. And then the other aspect of it that's important is Onslaught and Fight in the Shadows, so that when we actually do, like we put out our shadows and then we have Sync Strike go off, you see, or not Sync Strike, excuse me, Shadow Cascade go off, you see I actually gain a bunch of mana back. So I hit it, and I gained a bunch of mana. It'd be take a lot longer to get our mana back if we didn't have those points, so we definitely want these points in there. And I also took 1 in the Battle Trance and then 1 in Incapacitate just to add a little bit of frailty and dodge. These are not that important at all. All this stuff here is the big interactions. We also have this one here. Flow State's pretty good for the extra damage per dagger, which we have 2, so 30% more. And then the last thing we've got is Sync Strike. This is primarily a single target killer or a small pack killer, or just to throw it in the rotation when you're in a big pack when you've got some extra mana to spend. It's the interaction I was doing here where I'm dropping Sync Strike, I'm putting a bunch of shadows out, and then I'm hitting a shift to get Shadow Cascade to go off and put more shadows out, a whole bunch of shadows. So itself will put out a Shadow Dagger on hit, so every one of these that hits can put out a Shadow Dagger, and then when they do the Shadow Cascade, that's just more Shadow Daggers. So lots and lots of Shadow Daggers from the effect. Here's how you build it. So of course you're going to go down, you're going to take Coordinated Cuts and get your Umbral Assassination, so you get the Shadow Dagger on hit. From there, we're also going to want to go up and get 2 more shadows. So 1 in Growing Darkness. I've got 3 here in Foreshadowing, just 2 to get to Dark Allies to start with. And then from there, we're going to go over to Dynamics. You can start with 1 here and then boost up to 3 later. Start with 2 Art of the Blade, and then 1 in Perfect Coordination, which causes the shadows to jump inward to be more close than they would be without it, so they jump a lot farther out. If you didn't have that, we're doing that because we're trying to use this for single target, so we want them to jump as close to the target as possible. Large targets will be hit by all of them, which is great. Once you've done that, then you just finish up with Art of the Blade, which gives you more attack speed, which is great. Take that 1 in Foreshadowing, and then you're done, and that's all of the skills right there. Yeah, hey, look, guys, we're making YouTube content right now. So that's all the skills. That's how to put them together. Let's go into the passive tree. So we're gonna go 8 of 8 in Swift Assassin for the base damage. The attack speed is nice too. 3 in Guile right now currently. Actually, you know what? Let's do this a little bit better. Let me show you what it looks like at level 100 because I'm not a level 100 character. So let's pull up this here. This is the version that I'm running. Again, I'll give you this version here is for Glancing Blow. I will give that to you on YouTube. It just moves some dodge around to allow you to open it up for HP. Also has probably a little bit more damage than this one. And then of course it's going to use Apostate, which is right here, to convert dodge to Glancing Blow. So you're at 100% Glancing Blow. But we're not doing that on the version I've got here. So if you want to play it exactly like I did, you'll do the dodge version. And in the dodge version, you'll take Swift Assassin, you will take 1 in Guile, you will take 5 in Evasion. That damage taken while moving reduction is awesome, and it's going to increase dodge rating. Also 5 in Agility for the increased damage per move speed and haste on hit chance. More move speed. Move speed is amazing. Twin Blades you're going to need to dual wield. You've got 8 of 8 in Duelist. I've actually taken these out. I'm not sure why these are still in here, so we take these out. We don't need Sapping Strikes anymore because we're not using a generator in this build. You probably should though. I should probably point that out. You should probably use a generator until you don't need one, which means once you've started to get your mana regen going, you're going to put mana regen in your gear. Until then, use Puncture. Use Puncture with Shadow Dagger. Let me show you what that looks like. So until you get to where your mana is clean, you don't need a generator. Use Puncture. Grab the 4 here, Shadow Dagger chance. Press the attack for the frenzy duration. That will make this run by itself. You can also pick up like melee range, and then you can pick up Honor Shred and Fizz Res Shred just to help boost your Shadow Daggers. And then from there, make sure you have 4 in Sapping Strikes. That will allow you to generate mana actively instead of just the mostly passive way that we are doing it. And then once you've got your mana gen going on its own and you don't need it, then you can pop it out and take Decoy. So just take Decoy out, put Puncture in when you're leveling, and then once you get to the point where you're good, put Decoy in. You can still keep Decoy on your bar, you can still use it. You just won't have the skill tree until you get to that point. Okay, anyway. So at this point, we're not using Sapping Strikes. We've got 8 of 8 in Cloak of Shadows. GB chance is always great. Dexterity is great. Pursuit, more move speed, more melee damage. Love it. We've got 1 in Flow and 1 in Rhythm, which is just to get us to tempo for the melee crit multi. We got 1 in Shroud of Dusk, which gets to 5 in Veil of Night. This has the increased melee attack speed, but the Dust Shroud chance is like the big thing we want, which is just, more Glancing Blow generation is great. We got 5 of 5 in Blood Dance. This is our primary leech, so this is really important because leech is the way that we're getting our sustain. We've got 5 of 10 in Argent Veil. We decided not to take all 10, even though I think that's also an acceptable route if you want to be a little bit tankier, but 5 is really good. We've got 1 of 5 in Critical Eye, which gets us up to the all-in. So crit multi 75%, less damage dealt by non-crit. We don't care because Shadow Dagger is a guaranteed crit. So crit multi of 75% is awesome, and the downside is pretty much negligible. Oh, I didn't show this one either. When we got Spellbreaker for the Frailty and mana, increased mana regen, these are great. The Frailty chance means you don't need to really take Frailty anywhere else on your gear. You could if you want to be a little bit more smooth on Frailty, but I don't think you need it. And of course, mana regen is going to be important for this build. And then we're going to take a bunch of stuff for Perfection. Asuvan's Pact for the dodge and increased damage at full health. You should be at full health almost all the time because you're dodging so much. So that's why this is so good. The same thing with Perfection. You'll build a Perfection stacks as you hit enemies, and as long as you don't get hit, you will maintain them. So we're maintaining all 10 here, hopefully. And we're going to get more armor and dodge for that as well. And of course, we get increased damage, so 100% increased damage if we're at 10 stacks. And then we also take 1 in Exuberance to get the 2 stacks of Perfection for melee attack. So it only takes 5 hits to get us up to full Perfection stack. Now, I didn't take any more in this because it's only increased 10% increased damage after that, and there's no other benefit to it, so there's no reason to go any further. Okay, that is the passive tree. No, don't touch marksman at all. It's useless to you. Everything else, we're good there. Again, all that stuff will also be in the build planner. Let's talk about gear. So here's the primary aspects you need. Let's start with uniques. No matter which version you're using, you're probably going to want Smoke Weaver. If you use the version that goes Glancing Blow instead of Dodge, you might want to consider switching out Smoke Weaver for one Smoke Weaver, excuse me, for Undisputed. It'll be a little bit of a damage increase, and since the dodge rating won't matter to you, although you do need to get enough dodge rating to get to 100% Glancing Blow, so you'll just have to like figure that out. If you want to just be, super basic, don't worry about it. Smoke Weaver is still giving you a significant improvement in your speed, so it's still good to have 2 Smoke Weavers. It won't really hurt you to do that. If you're going the dodge route, you definitely want 2 Smoke Weavers because the amount of dodge you get from these is incredible. Like I'm getting, what, 600 dodge just from these 2 Smoke Weavers alone. And then, of course, I've got all these increases on top of it. So that's giving me all just an absolute ton of dodge. The other thing, if you're running the dodge version you want, is Ward Trail. Another base dodge rating, increased movement speed, and gain 30 ward on dodge is just a really, really nice unique. If you are running the other version, you will take this off, and the build guide shows you what to do, or the planner shows you what to do for that. Okay. The other big stat you need, of course, is Shadow Dagger Effect. You're going to want Shadow Dagger Effect on your chest, on your helmet, and on 4 of your idols, these 4 here. Get them as high as you can, and as your primary stat. Don't worry about the secondary stat, unless it's like get ward on shift, and even then, make sure that the Shadow Dagger Effect is on it, and only replace if it's still pretty, like if I got like an 18% Shadow Dagger Effect here and a good ward on shift, I would replace this. But if I got like a lower end, like a 12%, I probably wouldn't replace this. I'd probably keep it. Shadow Dagger Effect is just that strong for the build. You really, really want to have it. Okay, let's go over like some of the stats on each individual item. Again, the planner will give you a good sense of what you should put on there. Always put movement speed on your boots. Vitality is really good in your boots as well. You're going to want your resistances capped, but you're going to try to put some of that on your blessings. We'll talk about those in a minute. Dodge rating everywhere you can if you're running this version of it. We've got resistances over here. We got crit multi. Crit multi is great. This is actually like not an amazing relic, but that crit multi is so good that I'm currently wearing it. But again, the planner has a different setup because it's not an exalted. But this is a good place to put resistances for sure. And of course, crit multi is just really good. Dexterity is a really good stat to have. Let's see, crit avoidance goes on your rings and on your blessing. So you'll hopefully only need 1. Like I'm actually at 99 with just this and my blessing. I got lucky. That's awesome. You want throwing attack, fizz damage. Fire damage is okay too. Fizz damage is better on your rings because Shadow Dagger is both a melee and a throwing attack skill. That might sound kind of weird, but that's what it is. So it scales with both. Mana regen in your rings for sure. You're going to want mana regen where you can. Actually, me not having mana regen here kind of sucks. I don't have it here either, so I could get more mana regen if I got lucky. That would be great. Again, we got dodge here. We've got resistances, health on your chest, the increased health for sure, and the increased dodge if we can get them. Of course, Shadow Dagger Effect. I also like mana on the body armor, or depending on where you put your resistances, on the Lagan Blessing, because it just smooths out the build a bit to have a little bit more mana. So that's nice. The increased dodge here on the chest. Cooldown recovery on your helmet's always awesome. Another increased health, and of course, Shadow Dagger Effect. Again, all this stuff will be covered in the build planner, so you'll be able to see it all right there. One other idol to talk about is this one. I particularly like the crit strike multi while dual wielding on this, but not necessary like these 4 here are. These 4 you really want. Okay, blessings. So we've got I got really lucky with a great dodge rating here. This can also be void res though. This is void res. So either void res or dodge rating here. Lightning res is really good here, or mana. Crit avoidance here, pretty much just crit avoidance. You really want to get that crit avoidance on your Emperor of Corpses. And then I got cold res here, which is great. And then this one pretty much just increased dodge rating if you're running this version of it. If you're running the Glancing Blow, I have switched that on the planner. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is though. Okay, did I miss anything? No, I'm not paying attention to chat. Sorry, guys. In the middle of a video, so not paying attention to chat. I apologize. I know you're not used to being ignored, and I don't like to ignore you, but at the moment, that's what's happening. Okay, I think that's everything on the gear. So, real quick again, we'll cover the rotation. It is relatively simple. You shift your way through to whatever you want to get to. Just keep shifting because you're gonna go stupid fast. Drop a smoke bomb every once in a while just to take out some trash, because otherwise you'll probably lag your computer. Also, if you're worried about enemies following you can toss out a decoy. Once you get to whatever objective it is that you want, start with a smoke bomb, a decoy, and then sync strike your butt into it until it's dead. You might find yourself running a little low in mana. No problem, just shift around. Shift is also doing damage, and it's giving you more mana back, and then you go back to your rotation. That's it. Your smoke bomb, your decoy when you can, and your sync strike and shifting out when you can, and then you're just shifting around to get your mana back if you need to, which you won't need to do very often. And that is the entire rotation. All right, this is a little longer than I meant. It's about a half an hour long. I apologize for that. I had a lot to talk about with this one. There's a lot I like about Shadow Dagger, but that covers everything. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Once again, Shadow Dagger definitely not dead. Very, very, very much not a dead build. So if you still like playing Shadow Dagger, here is a way you can do it in the monolith and go stupid fast and do lots of damage. All right, if you would like to watch me make these builds or watch me just play LE, I stream on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week, almost all the time doing Last Epoch, or at least most of the time doing Last Epoch. Would love to have you there. And we have a Discord if you'd like to talk further about Last Epoch or whatever we talk about. We talk about a lot of stuff. Love to have you there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great time in Last Epoch.